Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest and greatest episode. Today, I'm sitting with Jack Kuveke, the founder of Jabroni Capital, who has a newsletter as well as just launched his own show. We talk about everything from nuclear energy, of course, the tariffs and the repercussions of those tariffs, as well as how to maintain your authenticity when you're just starting out your business. I've hosted Jack before, and it is always such an entertaining, fun, and involved conversation where I learn so much. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I have. Jack,
Claire,
how are you?
Great.
It's great to have you in this chair. We had like a 30-minute conversation before this. So I'll try to pick things up where we left off. We were talking about wind turbines. We were talking about whales dying because of the wind turbines. Nuclear is the best. And now I want to talk about tariffs.
Let's do it.
Okay. So as of today, what day is it?
Wednesday,
April 9th. Whatever.
8th, whatever.
It's April something. As of today, China is raising its tariff on the U.S. to 84% from 34% after Trump doubled duties on Chinese export. Trump has put a 90-day pause on countries coming to the table to negotiate, but 125% tariffs are effective immediately for China. By the time this episode is actually posted, I have a feeling we're going to be at like 4,000% tariffs for China. Do you think China or the U.S. can hold out for longer in terms of, I feel like this is like a big puffing your chest kind of war with one another. Who do you think is going to last longer and why?
I think China is more resilient because they could just always lock their people in cages.
They have a centralized government,
yeah.
You might be
just
cucked.
pull
You
up a
literally
van
might
in
be
front of someone that's like, I don't like these tariffs, and they just disappear. It's like Wu Lang never existed. So I think China will probably hold out. I mean, do you know how much Americans complain? Like in 14 days, Bill Ackman will be crying on live stream over these tariffs and like something will give in.
Yeah. So, but do you think it's mainly because of the fact that China has a centralized government that they can get away with something like that? I mean, we have the midterms for the Republicans coming up in a couple of years, you know.
Yeah, I think it's centralized government. I also think it's just like a homogenous, like more resilient culture. Like they've been around for 500 generations of different countries. Like they've been around. They're the oldest country by like the longest amount possible. Mm-hmm. So I think they just have like the really resilient, strong, unified culture. And then they can also disappear people, which is like an added benefit.
You don't think the U.S. does that?
We only do it to like the Epsteins of the world, you know? And like if a crypto guy gets too mouthy.
But the Epstein list still hasn't come out.
Well, yeah, because they just like threw him under the bus and were like, he died. Bill Gates was on that island, but don't worry about it. It's fine. You know?
Do you think all of that is true?
100%. Of course.
No, I agree. He definitely didn't kill himself.
Well, do I think Bill Gates was like a pedophile? Is that this question? Yeah, probably.
Really?
Well, I think a lot of these with it seems like the blackmail operation thing makes sense to me. I think you fly in a bunch of like dudes who were like complete nerds for a while. Then they go to a party island and they're like, this girl wants to sleep with you. And then some people know up front that they're underage, but some people after like, haha, news. She was 16.
And I'm going to blackmail you with this information.
And then you get them. Do I think like everyone involved was doing shit? Probably not. But would I buy that like a lot of them were? Yeah. Look at Clinton. I mean, like he's not a good guy.
The painting of the shoe of Clinton wearing the dress and the shoes. Did you see the red dress?
Yeah. They were up to some shit. There was like 1,000 cameras in his apartment or house in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, what? They weren't making like little music videos, okay? Like,
well, Diddy was.
Yeah, Diddy was, and he had backup cameras in like the dark rooms, you know, with all the oil. So,
okay, sorry, we got
tariffs, China,
tariffs, China.
Right?
Okay, so it started with tariffs. I wrote something because I was like, this is an accurate representation of just the messed up spaghetti that this situation is. So it started when tariffs were being put into place because Americans are getting screwed over. Then they were in place as a negotiating tactic, but then it was going to be permanent. So we were going to reshore American jobs and bring America's manufacturing back. Tariffs so hard that you tariff the penguins. Then it's don't be a panikin. Everyone hang tight. America will be more prosperous than ever. And now it's, well, there's a 90-day pause, so everyone needs to calm down. This was the plan all along, but we will never back down. And let's go into a trade war with China. But also now it's the art of the deal. Job well done. So many deals. To get the results that we wanted, whatever those were, How would you have done that differently? If you were president, picture yourself as president. What would you have done?
I think the challenge, if we like take one step, I don't have the answer. I write shit posts on the internet, so I'm like the least qualified person. But if we like go deeper into like the problem, I think the issue is like, you know, since the days of Rockefeller, like we used to just like abuse Americans, but they'd have jobs. Then we were like, well, we could just abuse Vietnamese children and have them make all of our goods. Same with China and Bangladesh. So we moved all this manufacturing overseas, which long-term made prices lower. But then, you know, you have just like less industry for like the common man. You and I are fine. We live in New York. We have like the upper echelon of jobs, but it's really like impacting the lower middle class. So I think all of this is stemming from like, well, I guess, how do we help these people? I don't know if this is actually a good solution, but I think the problem is like in the larger conversation, America has become so consumeristic and just pushing buy products that are largely outside the United States and giving just debt to literally everyone, including all the people that have like no money and no income.
Yeah, credit card debt reached $3 trillion.
Yeah, so it's like, I think the goal is like, how do you get people to go back to, I wrote about this in my newsletter, in the 1940s, if you wanted to buy something, the question was like, okay, that thing's $50. Do you have $50? You had $49, you didn't buy it. Yeah. And the only thing you could get a loan for was a house because you saw your friend get blown up in Iwo Jima and they felt bad for you. So the government like gave you a subsidized home. That was the only thing you get a loan for. And it was also $3,000, the house. Mm-hmm. So like, I just think that like the larger problem is like all the consumer debt. And like, I don't know what the right solution is. I'm far too dumb to come up with that. I don't think the core conversation is wrong. Like I've heard a lot of people say that, like, is Trump wrong? Wrong around a lot. Is like the thing behind the tariff wrong? I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think the problem is entirely correct. I think the problem that he states are completely true. Our deficit, debt in America. It is true that manufacturing, I was doing research about it. It is true that manufacturing has moved a lot of the parts overseas, a lot of manufacturing overseas, but it's also true that automation has taken way more jobs than manufacturing has. So let's say we were to bring these manufacturing jobs, reshore them back in the US. First of all, it's probably going to be more expensive. Second of all, automation is going to take those jobs anyways with like a lot of this new machinery. So I'm trying to understand. Well, I think the idea is like corporate tax. So if those companies come back to the States and the companies are paying taxes in America rather than a Chinese company that's not paying taxes in America, even if you don't supply the jobs, it would be overall better for the economy. I believe is like, I'm assuming and hoping that that's like the idea here. Maybe it's not, but you know, even if there's no jobs, but they're just American companies that are producing those goods, theoretically, they're paying corporate taxes and that's funneling our economy and paying off our debt. I hope.
Then I heard someone say, it was like, there's clearly a big problem. And everyone, I'm happy that he's addressing the problem. But I just think the solution of moving fast and breaking things, I'm wondering if that's the right answer. And if he's making the solution the bigger problem than the problem itself.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean,
I'm like, what's your opinion on this?
I don't, it's not going to be good.
I just needed to get like tariffs out of my system.
No, I know. I mean, the thing is like, what my opinion is like, I think the only way to get like any idea of whether or not this is going to work is if you do it for like at least like a year.
Yeah.
You'd have to do it for like a long enough period of time, but I just don't know if we're going to be able to last that long if, you know, rich people are primarily upset. The funny thing about the whole stock market thing, it's just like, and this is what everyone's joking about on social media, it's like poor people don't own stocks. They can't pull up $500 in an emergency, gun to their head. Like, and so it's just like all of our rich friends who like make $180,000 are like, this stock shit is really fucking me up right now. And I'm like, yeah, but like it doesn't impact like Josie and Jerome in the middle America. Like they don't own stocks. So downtail, like I guess trickle down, if you believe in that, it would impact them. But I think most Americans are not actually as impacted by what's going on short term in the market as we expect. It's mainly us. But also our economy is propped up on a bed of lies and stocks are not worth nearly as much as they are. And home prices in America, like I couldn't get a new apartment. I had to stay in my apartment because
seriously?
Yeah, because every apartment I would look at was $5,500. And I'm like, I can afford that, but I'm unwilling to pay $5,500 for a 2-bedroom in East Williamsburg.
In East Williamsburg,
Yes.
it was $5,500?
100%. I could not find a better apartment than my apartment for less money. And I'm like, and by the way, I'm doing better than almost all. Who's paying for this? They're all just in debt. Like the brokers, as I was talking to brokers, he's like, do you know how many people apply with multiple $100,000 salaries and they don't have $5,000 in their checking account? I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, people with $200K they apply for homes all the time. I'm looking through their documents. They don't have $5,000 and they make $250,000. Yeah.
Where does it all go?
To their
rent?
$7,000 a month apartment. And then they need clothes and they go out to dinner. And then, oh my God, they got to go to a trip to Cabo and they put it all on a credit card and they barely scratch.
What? How much debt are people in? Like, seriously? Because I've heard some scary statistics. I don't fully remember them, but I heard like more people are in debt than you think. Like people
80,
just aren't talking
80%.
about it. And it's all credit card. You can finance a burrito.
Yeah. Yeah, people do. I remember I talked to a guy years ago. Maybe my brother was telling me this story. I forget if it was me or him. Either way, he was in college. He bought a parachute. Parachutes are expensive. They're thousands of dollars. This guy had no money. But this guy just lumped it in with my student loans.
Like, how do you just, what do you?
Well, it's just like, it's like discretionary, it's like people, but my friends in business school do this all the time. They take out student loans. They take out additional loans so they can like travel and go to like the Virgin Islands. Because like it's networking for like the parties and MBA, getting an MBA. I had a friend who did this. He went to MIT and he spent probably like 40 to 60 grand traveling while in getting his MBA to go to like fucking Virgin Islands and then go to Europe. And then he went to Indonesia. And I love the guy, and people are doing that. And they're just like, we'll just take out more loans because my MBA will pay for it. And then he graduated and he made $10,000 more at his next job post-graduate from his MBA.
Okay. So has he repaid all of his debts or he's in the process of repaying?
He's in the process of repaying, but he was more responsible. He got he got most of his degree was paid for. He got scholarships for almost the entire thing.
Oh, okay.
But like everyone else was getting personal loans for traveling, unless they had like rich parents and inheritance.
Okay. I know nothing about loans outside of student loans. I've never taken a loan. You're allowed to just take a loan for whatever you want and they'll approve you.
Well, I mean, you can get a loan you can get a $50,000 credit spend, a limit on your credit card and just take out debt there.
But why is it, okay, what I still don't understand is why it's to a credit card company's advantage to have all these people in debt when so many of these people won't ever be able to pay it back.
Because if they default, the government will just bail them out. There's no consequences for them. They'll just rack up more debts and increase the premium. People default. They have
if they default, who covers it?
Well, that's the thing is they have a model.
If they have nothing to their name.
Well, yeah. So they have a model. So that person gets bankrupt. So the bank has to cover it for the most part. But then that person is fucked. They can't take out a credit card. They won't be able to get a mortgage. They'll have to pay cash for things or get like the worst, most high interest credit card account ever again. Like that consumer, like their credit score will be 200 and they'll be screwed.
So knowing all this information and people know it's not good to have a ton of debt, why do they keep doing it?
Because they need nice things. Because your friend has a cool watch. And if you don't have one, you're a loser, Claire. Because your friend walks in with a new like Versace bag and you go, well, I don't have one. You make $62,000 a year and you also need the manicure, pedicure. But also like you need to get your nails done, and your eyes done and the makeup. And I need to get a blowout. And I'm just going to be ugly. And my lips, I need fillers. So all of it goes on the credit card. Now you're in $80,000 worth of debt. And you're going to be, but you'll marry rich. Except they don't have money either.
Everyone's just broke.
Everyone's broke.
Everyone's broke. We're all broke.
I had a friend the other day who was like, I had a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, sold a company. He like netted like $100 million. Okay. Incredible. Life-changing. Like this guy,
sure.
the one, and he was like, well, there's like a lot of people that have $100 million. I was like, there's like 1,000 people or less in the United States that are under 40 or 45.
For some reason, I just think everyone's rich.
Yeah. No one's rich.
Because everyone acts rich and everyone looks rich.
Yeah. Well, so I was lucky when I was a kid. My dad, we lived in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is very affluent. My dad had a small business and they had they had like 10, 15 good years and they made good money, but they always like live beneath your means, Jack. He was also a wealth manager for a while. And he would tell me, we like drive by people's houses and they'd have like a $5 million house. They have 4 cars. And I'd be like, oh my God, these people are doing well. He's like, they make way less money than us. And we live in a $1 million home and we have 2 cars that we can afford. And he's like, and the home's almost paid off for. And we make way more money than them. I'm like, but how does that work? He goes, because they're in crippling debt. They're barely holding it together. They make just enough, but if they lost their job, they're screwed. And that's what happened in the '08 housing crisis. All these people in these $2-3 million homes, they lost their jobs and then they went under and then they were in debt. They had to sell their home. They went bankrupt. They foreclosed on the house. That's what happened. It's going to happen again.
Can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. Well, if you don't have debt, you're fine. You're doing great.
I do have debt.
You don't have that much though, right?
I have like $13K in student loans.
Oh my God, you're fine. You're fine. That's not the problem. When it gets to like 50, 100, 200, 500, that's the problem we're talking about.
Want to know something really weird about me?
Sure.
I pay off my credit card twice a month just to like not give myself the idea that I have more than I actually have.
That's good.
My dad said that's stupid.
That's fine.
Because you need to your credit score could potentially get hurt if you don't just like carry out the balance until the end of the
That's true. But like it's not going to be hurt that much. And if it's just like just a mental thing, it's fine.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. And it's also, I literally get worried that the auto pay is just not going to go through one day. And so I'm just like, I'm not going to be there when it does.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I have debt on my business card right now. That's the only the only place I've ever had debt. I'm paying it off though.
Okay.
But
how much are we talking?
It's like, I don't know, like a couple thousand, 5,000 to 7,000 or something like that. But
so going back to New York housing though for a second.
Sure.
You said you're struggling. You had to stay in your apartment because you couldn't find a new place that was livable and affordable.
Yeah, I didn't have to. I was like, I chose to. It was just like, I wanted to move and I wanted to like, I'm going to upgrade. Business is going well.
Yeah.
I've got a good amount of savings. I'm comfortable. My roommate's also an entrepreneur and we were like, let's ball out. And by ball out, we mean like, just, I don't know, maybe we can afford $5,000, $5,500 for like a really nice
washer
place.
in unit kind of thing.
And then just every building I looked at, I couldn't find an apartment that was better than my current apartment. But every apartment I looked at was worse than my current apartment in at least $1,000 more a month in rent. And I was like, this is just unreasonable. I'm like unwilling to pay more than, personally like $2,200, which is $25,000 after like pre-tax. That's pre-tax going to rent.
That's
if I'm paying $36,000 a year pre-tax, like I would feel like a fool unless I was cash flowing double or triple what I'm doing fine. I'm making good money.
He's not poor. Everyone, he's not poor.
And then my building, then I was resetting my lease. My building gave me shit. I was like, I've paid you, personally written you a check for $4,000 myself every month for the last 5 years, and they're giving me shit. So I had to take a screenshot of my crypto portfolio. And I was like, guys, I could live here for 15 years. And they were like, okay, whatever. But I was like laughing with my friend. I'm like, I would just show them $1 million to fucking get these people to shut the fuck up and stop giving me shit. It's so annoying.
Hilarious. Okay, moving on to more tariff stuff.
Yes.
One more second. So the federal budget deficit in the fiscal year of 2024 reached $1.8 trillion, which was a increase by $130 billion. And between 2000 and 2010, the U.S. shed 5.8 million manufacturing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any world in which we can successfully do that without, you think, increasing the price of goods for the consumer? Because the big concern is, and the opinion based on history, is that the cost of goods is going to be increased and passed on to the consumer.
Probably not short term. I think prices are just going to go up. Unless like you're just talking about pure goods that are made in America. I mean, the good thing is that food is almost entirely made in America. Like we're one of the only countries that could be completely self-sufficient on food.
Tell me more.
There's 4 countries on the planet that could produce their own food, just like have enough supply production to supply their whole country with their food. There's only 4. Every other country in the world is dependent on another country for food. America is one of 4. It's France, Australia, the United States, and then there's one other that I'm forgetting. But there's maybe Ukraine, I think, might be the 4th, which is probably why that war is going on. But so the good thing is that we produce most of our food, and we don't have to rely on imports for that. So from like base need, that's like the most important. But then other like frivolous spending stuff probably is going to go up dramatically. But like, to be honest, in my belief, like I don't think you should have a 90-inch flat screen TV if you make $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem like a good idea. You know, you've just been able to buy a lot of things that you probably shouldn't have been able to afford in the first place. A lot of people, so myself included. Maybe we should just spend less on fucking dumb shit that you don't need is my argument to some degree. But I don't see a way in which prices don't go down or like stay the same in the short run. I just think prices are going to go up like pretty dramatically across the board unless magically we're able to actually produce everything in America. But even then we'd have to pay people more than we would.
Because the manufacturing, clothing manufacturing in the US, I think minimum wage is like at least $11 to $20 on average. Right. And then in countries like China, it's like $2 to $3, I think.
It's not going to be good. I don't know. I mean, that's why I have an internet business. That's my goal, is to just make a lot of money.
That's fair.
That's the only solution. Every time I hear all these problems, macro, I'm just like, make more money is my only answer I can tell
I agree. I genuinely think money is the solution to, I want to say 95% of problems, minus everything emotionally, but like physical health.
Totally.
Therapy.
Well, that's not necessary.
Excuse me?
I'm very mentally stable, so I don't need it.
But I feel like money buys you the freedom and the opportunities and the access, which you otherwise can't have.
Yes. For most people, money would solve most of their problems.
So what percentage of what you do is driven by money? Is it everything? Or is it like passion as well?
No, there has to be passion. Because I've had this like little nest egg from my crypto days for a while. I've never been really desperate, and I've been fortunate to just like, if I did like wanted to fuck off for a year, like I could, and it would be fine. It wouldn't be responsible, and I try not to do that. But I used to I took a couple jobs and did a couple things that were horrible and I hated doing. And so when I started doing this, I was like, I want to figure out how to make money and real money, but doing something I actually like doing. Because if I don't, I'm going to quit. I'm a huge quitter. I'll quit anything I hate. And so if I don't do something I love, I'll just quit and I won't make money.
Even if it's working? Even if something you're doing is working? Really?
100%. Because if I don't like it, I'll be miserable, I'll get depressed. And that's happened. So I'm just unwilling to do anything I don't want to do anymore. So I have to figure out how to make money through Jabroni Capital. That's the greatest
And I feel like you're doing a great job.
Yeah, no, it's somehow working.
You have your new show.
That's right.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What was the idea behind it? How did you and Jason meet? Jason is the co-host.
So I'm filming a show with Jason Levin, who's like a notorious Twitter shit poster and meme lord. But we met through like a friend of a friend, and I also like harassed him on Twitter DMs. And he tried to charge me money because he thought I was like a bozo. And then a friend hooked us up and was like, actually, you should meet him.
Okay.
Either way, we sat down one day and he's like, I've always wanted to make a show. And I'm like, me too. And my feeling for a while is like, I think a lot of the business and entrepreneurship content out there is super dry. Like there's every format has kind of been done. It's all pretty professional. Like Morning Brew's doing sketches, but it's not that unhinged. They have like a brand to maintain.
Yes.
And I was like, if we could do a really unhinged tech show, say anything, whatever we want, make any kind of jokes we want. I originally wanted to write for South Park when I was a kid. So it's like, let's make just like sketch comedy stuff that is just as unhinged as possible at the tech industry, because I don't think anyone's doing that. Everyone's tried doing a podcast, and I love podcasts, but I was like, I don't think I have a unique angle to bring there. But I was like, what if we do like just a sketch comedy show, and then we do a podcast in the middle of it. Like we use this studio actually to film and like base the show in. But that was the idea. And the whole theme is that we just build really dumb startup ideas every episode, and we try and pitch them to investors, get users, bring them to market or whatever. And then every episode we move on to a different idea.
So tell me what the desired outcome of this show is, and then also tell me some of the products that you've launched.
Fame, Claire. Fame, notoriety, 100,000 people thinking I'm not a complete bum and loser. No, I mean, I think it's like, being able to just make like enough money, like a quarter of my income from this thing is the starting point. Is like I make like a quarter of what I'm making now from doing just a completely unhinged and funny show that tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of people see.
And you've already gotten sponsors for it, right?
Somehow, yeah.
That is amazing. And how many episodes in are you?
We've only released 2 episodes, and we've filmed 5 so far.
Okay.
Or maybe 6.
That's amazing.
We filmed 1 yesterday and 1 today. We're just filming like it's crazy right now. And it's chaotic and dumb and they might be terrible.
But it's doing great.
Somehow.
Okay,
yeah.
so tell us some of the products that you launched. The first one was Duo.
Fucko, yeah. It was Duolingo, but only for curse words.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the product I built, which is my CEO of Fraud, which is an actual website that I built that just tells you how likely someone is to commit fraud from their LinkedIn profile and then roast them. The third episode, Palantir, competitor. We didn't know what Palantir did, so we made a competitive Palantir using no code.
That is what is it?
It's Palantir, but we sell it to terrorists.
What? I can't.
The fourth one.
And you have companies like, yep, let me sponsor them.
Well, they may leave. They sold a lot of them prior to the episodes releasing. They said they saw the pilot. They know what they're getting into.
Okay, I respect that. Okay,
I'm expecting there to be some churn if I'm being realistic.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that worried about it though.
No, I love that it's just authentic.
Yeah. But I am worried about having to get sponsors and then like dial things back. I would rather just lose money and make it funnier than take sponsors and like have to not say things that I think are funny.
Yeah. So you're deciding to go more of the passion no matter what route versus the monetary.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If they offered me $20 million, I'd sell out. I'll sell out for a number. And anyone who says they won't.
Everyone has a price.
Everyone has a price. I'm just willing to admit it. There is a price in which I will destroy all my authenticity. It just has to be enough money. You know?
So your price is 20 mil?
I think that's something. It would need to be well into the millions of dollars. And then, but that gladly.
Okay, so how do you come up with the products? Like how did you come up with the Duo?
I forget. That was just like, we just text like the dumbest ideas we can possibly come up with in a chat. And then the one today that we filmed that you weren't in because you just didn't have that stardom in your eyes.
Oh, I didn't?
No.
Okay.
No. But hey, maybe next time. Keep working on this little thing.
Keep following your dreams.
We'll see. But that was a dating app, but I'm the only guy on it. And then we white label it to other tech bros, which I think is pretty fun. But anyway, just come up with like dumb ideas in a group chat. And then we're like, we guess we can do that. And then we figure out like, how can we incorporate like a native ad into it? To be honest, it's like a lot of it.
Would you ever think of like seriously, like actually launching an app like that?
I have.
Where girls can sign, because actually for the dating app idea, I think that could be very profitable because let's say you have a celebrity, notorious person, he can advertise that he's looking for a wife or a husband or she can advertise. And as a result, you can get a bunch of people who sign up for this application. And it's just like, there's no competition because it's just you. Yeah,
it's just you. And I always say, the best way to start any relationship is financially, you know? Like if you're getting into it for all the right reasons, I want to know. Like, okay, they're just gold digging. That's what I'm looking for. It's perfect.
Wait, in your case though, what would it?
Well, it's gold digging. I'm a very successful entrepreneur. The established firm, Jabroni Capital. I don't know what you're talking about. You work in this like chuckle hut over here of like fake business, but I have a real institution, sister. So
you're so right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
So Palantir. What does the application or product do?
I don't even know what Palantir still does.
Okay.
The theme of the episode is no one does.
Okay.
So we have to copy Palantir without knowing what it does, which I think is good content, but I couldn't tell you. Something with data, security, Al-Qaeda, maybe, terrorism.
Lovely. Okay. So getting more into serious questions of your ideas behind it. How do you measure whether you're spending your time well on something or not? And when do you stop doing it? Outside of the fact of when you're like, I just don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
Whether it be the show, the newsletter, different concepts that you're trying.
That's hard because I think in the creative space, you have to commit to doing something and it will seem crazy and unprofitable for a very long time. So even the newsletter, I mean, I spent a ton of time every week writing 2 newsletters every week and making them funny. Even when I had 3,000 subscribers, I had 5,000. And then when I started to to 10 and now 14 or 15, I'm like, all right, it seems worth my time now because I have like a bunch of like people that are really like this and are addicted to it. But for the entire time up until now, I was like, it's an investment that you're expecting to be valuable. So that's on the creative side. On like the business side, there's just a raw number, right? Like if I'm getting paid at least $5,000 or $10,000 a month, I'll do something. But if I'm not getting paid at least that, for me, like I used to sell smaller contracts and packages for things, would be like a couple $1,000s. And then I just realized, okay, the time that's going into selling that thing, then the amount of time I have to like work with this person every month. And I'm like, this is just not worth my time, because in aggregate, I'm spending way too much time. Like how much, if I can do 10 of these, that's not going to scale. But if I can do 10 of them for 5K or 10K, that can scale. I can comfortably do something for $100,000 a month for my business rather than, 10, 20, 30. So I just think of it in terms of like raw numbers when it comes to business. And then for creative stuff, it's like, it's just investment and cross your fingers and believe that it's good content. And then if it sucks, throw in the garbage and try something else.
And when it comes, like, I mean, you're clearly someone who's building out in the open, very out in the open, so much in the open.
Arguably too much. Yeah.
With that, how do you go about, if you're someone who is trying to build in the open, and again, we talked about this in the last episode, sometimes people have a hard time just finding their voice, especially in a professional setting, aka LinkedIn. What are the ways that you could be good about building in the open? Like, what are things that you've noticed work for you outside of the comedy aspect?
Yeah, I think just what I don't find this to be a real challenge, because I'll basically say anything that I believe on social media. And then if there's things that I don't think the LinkedIn audience will like, I won't say it there, but I'll say it on Twitter or my newsletter or any like on podcasts, I'll say whatever. So I think it's just figuring out like, what does this audience want out of my content on social media? For instance, LinkedIn, I know that they want like takes on the tech industry. They want satire. They do like life story stuff, and they like my person, like what I've done to get to where I am. So I'll give them stuff like that. And then anything related to that content, I'm open book. I'll say anything that I think I can stand by and believe, and as vulnerable as I'm willing to be and as vulnerable as the audience wants. But if it's not like outside of that, if they don't want, like, I'm not going to go give them like my niche political philosophies on like
tariffs.
Tariffs or nuclear energy. Unless I can find a way to make that funny. So I'm just once I know what my voice and my audience is and my angle is for any social media platform, I'm like, I'm not gonna, this is what they're gonna get, and I'll say anything there, but I'll go to a different platform if I want to talk about other shit.
And what advice would you give to someone who's trying to turn a funny idea into like a product, or a product into like marketing it through comedy?
Think about, what do you want the outcome to be? Right? So it's like, you want to get something out of it. Is it emails? Is it views? Is it followers? So you have to figure out like what the desired outcome is, because then that will dictate what's the simplest way to get there. Doing something funny. So like, is my CEO a fraud? I was like, I need this. I expect no one's going to want to use anything. So I have to make it that you just copy paste a link, and then it gives you the outcome. So for me, I had to make it something where it was just as simple as possible. It's like, is my CEO a fraud? Make it really funny landing page. And like, then they can share that screenshot or their photo with their friends. And that's user experience. There's no sign up, there's nothing. But then it started to go really viral, and I was losing thousands of dollars on OpenAI credits. So I forced them to put in their email to the newsletter in order to sign up. And like 15,000 people still did it. So I was like, okay, great. Then I got what I wanted, which was I wanted email signups. But once I saw that they were willing to go through that user journey, then I activated email sign up and mandatory once it was going viral. But I always knew I want email subscribers out of this. This is the goal. So then I centered the entire product around, how do I get email signups through something funny in the simplest way possible.
And when it comes to securing sponsors, how do you have any really big tips that you would suggest for people securing sponsors? You said already that's better to buy sell sponsorships in package,
yes,
like large package deals, right?
Yeah, that's better. I'm not the best at it. My partner who I work in the show, Jason's like way better than me. But at least for the newsletter, and what I was saying is, like, once you have a clear audience, like first you have to know who your audience is and have to have like a large enough audience that you can sell something to them, and you can be like, I have 5,000 diehard female entrepreneurs that would love your fucking whatever, female entrepreneur centered product or focused audience. then you can sell something to them. But I would think you want to go to give them like a package, like it's going to be $10,000 for 10 podcasts or 20 podcasts, because going out and selling one-off packages is a goddamn nightmare and does not scale and is a huge waste of time. Like even if I sell ads on the newsletter now for like $750 at the low end or $1,500 on the high end, doing that one-off and trying to convince someone over email or whatever is a waste of time. Like I'm beating myself up and taking a week and a half to make $750. It's not going to work. But if they pay me $5,000 or $10,000 and I can like do a LinkedIn post plus newsletter, then you can do a package deal and the numbers start to make more sense. The only way that I'll ever do anything that's cheap is if I also get followers out of it. So if like I do like a joint workshop with someone, but they're going to promote it to their audience and then I get all those emails from it, then they can pay me a couple grand, whatever. But then I'm going to get another asset on top of it. But like, so you can find like clever ways like that in the beginning that'll make it worth your while, as long as you're getting like something additionally other than the money to make it worth your while, boosting your following, boosting your audience, getting more like name recognition, something like that. But
and if you're a creator, then how do you go about like pricing yourself? How do you know your own market value? Is that based on industry?
You just make up a number and you pray. You make up the highest number. My favorite pricing story is you come up with the highest number that people will pay for. You start really high. Okay. So you just like, there was a great story. I forget who this was, but he was like, he's about to go sell a client. He was like flying to meet to their office and his CFO calls him and goes, bill them $100,000 a month. And he goes, that's crazy. I was going to ask for like 5. And he goes, say 100,000 or I'm quitting. So he gets down there and he's like, well, I can't lose my CFO. So he goes and he says $100,000. I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind? We're not paying you $100,000 a month. We'll do 70 at best. And then they sign it for 70. But
that was the desired outcome the whole time?
Yeah, it was just like, it was like, say a number that's so crazy they fight back on and they give you they negotiate, but you were going to start at 10K a month and you ended up at 70 because you started at the outlandish number. Because it's like, if someone really wants something, they'll just negotiate and say, no, but I'll do it for this. And it'll almost always be more than you were actually willing to do it for. So that's my strategy. I've sold 0 sponsorships so far.
Yeah, I know you're lying.
No, I'm lying.
Oh my God.
I'm lying. It's just true.
And do you ever experience, when doing all this content, do you ever experience any self-doubt? Like, do you even have haters? I feel like you don't have haters. I got my first LinkedIn haters and I texted you and I was
I have haters.
I'm depressed.
I have haters. I have haters. I just don't care. I respond in jest and that normally dissuades people. So I just like always just make a joke. I make more fun of myself. Like I double down and go harder. I'm like, you have no fucking idea how dumb I am. And
I saw that someone was like, this is the dumbest post I've ever seen. And you were like, yeah, I'm dumb. So what? Like,
yeah, it's just like that helps. But there are people that don't like it. I've had people block me. I mean, there's plenty of stuff. Like people just don't like you. But the nice thing is like once you get enough audience, like 99% of it, even content that I'm ashamed of, and I put out and I'm like, this isn't that good. People are like, that's awesome. And I'm like,
so do you?
I'm my biggest hater.
So what do you do when the self-doubt creeps in? You just post and go?
Yeah, just fucking go for a walk. I go for a run. I just forget about it and move on. The nice thing about content is like, I post every day. And now I'm posting on Twitter, which is fucking annoying, but I have to do it. So it's like, I just have to post so much and do so much shit that like, I don't have time to worry about one post not being that great. I have to start thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to post. So I always just focus on the next thing. If it goes well, I feel awesome for a day. And then I go, God damn it, I have to do this again. And then I go back to just what's the next thing I'm going to do. So that's all I care about. When people hate the newsletter, I go, all right, let me focus on the next newsletter. I just don't think about it. I just move on.
But I feel like you've grown like kind of a cult following.
Yes. I was helpful. People liked the content from the first post. There was like, I've had fans since the first post that have stayed with me, which I'm very grateful for.
Yes, fans. Ooh.
My fans, which is maybe the lamest thing I've ever said, and also their LinkedIn
I'm just going to take that little snippet and just put it everywhere.
I'm very famous, Claire.
And when it's like, has anything changed for you since you gotten LinkedIn famous at all? Do you feel any differently?
No.
Or you feel feel the same?
I feel the same way. I'm proud of like that I get to do this and it's fun. Like someone told me to become their co-founder the other day and I told them I would rather smoke crack than join them. That's really fun. My job's awesome. I can get away.
You actually said that?
Oh yeah. That's how I respond to everyone. My brand is being a goofball. So I respond, like I sold a sponsor recently and my like exchange with the sponsor, who's a big fan of the newsletter, is like the most unhinged. Like,
really?
Yeah, because he's a fan. So I was just, no punctuation, back of the cab, just like saying unhinged things to him. And then he's riffing with me and going back. So I'm really grateful that I get to be a complete idiot and say things like that. And that guy I said the smoke crack comment to just tried to sell me harder. He wasn't offended. He reads the newsletter. He knows what he's getting into.
They're probably like, I'm in love with you now.
Yeah, it's just like I get to be that character, which is way more fun. So I think that's the most thing I'm grateful for. The only other thing I'll say is I have to say no to a lot of stuff. Like 100 people ask me like, I just want to get on a call and talk with you this week. And I'm like, yeah, so does 90 other people, which isn't a facet of me being special. It's just like if you have any audience, everyone goes through this. So like you have to have something in the message that makes me want to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like I want to just talk about your app. Why would I want to do that?
So how can, I guess this applies to you, because there are so many people who are trying to reach out to someone who has an audience. What do you think is the best way that they can approach these
Sell
people?
yourself. If someone's like, I'm in college and I've acquired 10,000 followers and I made my first $5,000 and I'm trying to figure this out, I'll talk to them. I talk to, if you're like, what have you done? If you say I sold $20 million worth of trucks, but now I'm trying to get into comedy and like, I don't know I'll talk to you. Like sell yourself. Like why make me like humanize yourself to make me want to meet with you? But when you're like, I have this revolutionary app, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the app. I care about you as a person, whether or not you're a bozo. But when you're trying to sell me on your app, I'm never going to care about it. But I can care about you as a human being and want to help people out. And I like investing in people. So if you come to me with like a good pitch, like when you reached out, I was like, oh, she's starting a podcast. She has a cool job. You led with yourself. And then I was like, I'm down to do a podcast with someone who's like, has this interesting background, is willing to do something. I'll respond. But if you're like, you're just like a lame duck and you're just like, I just like you so much. And like, I just love your content. I want to meet with you. And I'm like, like, it's weird. Like be a person. I want to talk to people. That's my advice. Sell yourself. And if you have nothing to sell, do stuff to be sellable. Like get experience. Like why should anyone want to talk to you? Make yourself someone that would want to. When I dropped out of college, did the whole thing we talked about last podcast, I thought like, what's the story I can tell people? So then when I message people, I'm like, when I was 20 years old, I dropped out of college and moved to Belgrade, Serbia. Now I have a company. I lost $2 million. Now I have a company. I just want to talk to you about making content. Most people are like, oh my God.
You're so interesting. Like, yeah, tell me more.
Yeah. So like they wanted to talk to me and I thought about that in advance. Like I need to have a story to tell to get people on the phone. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does make sense. I was waiting for more information.
No, that's all I got for you. It's just be cool and interesting. It's not that hard.
And what's in the future for your show?
I don't know.
What's the end? No. What's the end goal? Like Jabroni Capital with the show in 20 years.
I want to start my own. I think that the shows are great. It's a really fun way to get to work with two of my friends. I'm getting to like learn, like get better at like finding shots, filming stuff, recording, getting better at talking, where I'm not like fumbling and like rambling onward, which I have a tendency to do if you haven't noticed. And so that's really the goal, is to get better at it. And then if we can, build up an audience along the way and have, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of loyal fans, I think that's a goal for now. But then I want to like secondarily, like I'm hiring my friend who's actually producing this show to help me make my own videos as well. So I want to make videos for Jabroni Capital and like do like expand, just like Barstool did, starting with paper media or written media, move into more video content and do that kind of stuff. So I want to make like just a media company. My goal is just make a media company. This is an offshoot of it in one of our projects, but then have like 3, 4, 5 fun projects where I just get to work with my friends.
So you can maybe have like a bunch of like, you could, I don't know if it's white labeling creators, that kind of thing, but you just have a set, these set creators that kind of go with your brand.
Find funny people and give them a platform.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Idea. You guys hiring or what?
I don't know, maybe. If you talk to me about whales and nuclear energy, I might be interested.
Okay, I do have a question. So when we were talking earlier, you have so much knowledge. We got into how things about China and then trade, and then you were talking about wind and solar.
Sure.
And how China had the largest war or whatever. Where did that passion come from? And why do you know so much?
I hated school, but I've always just loved information. I just love like learning stuff. Like history I never had to study for because I just remember stories. I love hearing stories of like Benedict Arnold, like defecting over to the other side, and like world history has always been so fascinating to me. Like how the world works and how things work is just endlessly interesting. And I have a million rabbit holes. Like I read Wikipedia. Like
what are you most fascinated by at the moment?
Right now, that's a good question. I've been down a rabbit hole for the longest time on nuclear orphan sources, like radioactive or orphan sources.
I need you to dumb that down by like 5,000
An orphan source, many of my friends will be like, Jesus Christ, he's talking about orphan sources again. But what an orphan source is like, if you have a medical device that uses like a radioactive material to do medical treatments, they leave it in a warehouse in Brazil and forget about it. And then people go into scrap for metal and they find glowing blue rocks and they're like, oh my God, this is so fun. And then they become irradiated and die.
How many people have died from this?
There have been probably 1,000 orphan source incidences. And there's thousands of orphan sources around the world that are undocumented, mainly in the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Where they use there's something called like an RTG, which is a thermocoil that uses a small amount of nuclear material or like radioactive material to heat up the coil and then power a small battery. It's a really simple device, but you can just leave it in the middle of nowhere for 50, 100 years. They use them on the space station all the time. Mm-hmm. And they would use them in like really remote locations in the Soviet Union to power like a light in a fucking super remote lighthouse. And then the Soviet Union shut down, the USSR fell, and there was all of these orphan sources and these nuclear materials that were undocumented and lost throughout the Soviet Union, all across Eastern Europe as well. And like these devices are sometimes stumbled upon. And like in America, we have like very strict protocols around nuclear, and there's a commission to track these and like go work with the public sector and the private sector to identify these materials and track them. But in other countries with not so good governments, these are like a real issue. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a recent obsession of mine for like the past 6 months.
And what are your thoughts on the U.S.'s stance towards nuclear?
Terrible.
Why?
Because there is it stems back from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like nuclear radiation is really scary. It's a super scary way to die. Radiation poisoning is the worst.
So in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people did have radiation poisoning.
Yes, but it's actually not as bad as you think because it was an airburst. So they explode the bomb in the middle of the air. Nuclear weapons are primarily really bad for nuclear material if they explode into the water or the ground because then it irradiates all the material. But because it's an airburst, that disperses like after a week or two, most of the radiation is gone. There's a huge problem for all the people that survive the blast on the ground. Yeah. Definite issue.
So when I was in Hiroshima, they were showing the photos of people like years and years after it, and they look like slowly their faces literally melt off.
Yes.
Their flesh melts off.
Because it destroys your DNA. That's what radiation does.
They said they're still the blasts are still affecting like generations after their kids' generations after.
Oh yeah, because of birth defects and like all the people that were children then, have like thyroid issues. That was a big problem with Chernobyl. So that's the sentiment around like nuclear power is that it's very scary. And so the outcome in the worst case scenario is terrifying, but it's the safest form of energy by probably 1,000%. Like the next closest safest, solar, more deaths, wind, more deaths, coal. Millions of people die every year from coal-related deaths, but they die of like emphysema and like lung disease. There are 0 deaths from nuclear power every single year. There's been like recorded, even Chernobyl, like a dozen or several dozen direct deaths, then thousands of other deaths. But don't get me started with the Soviet Union and their nuclear power. But nuclear power is so abundantly safe and the only truly renewable energy on the planet that it's a complete like fumble to not invest a dramatic amount of resources into it.
And both Trump and Biden were not for nuclear because Trump is more pro-oil boomer, and then Biden is more pro green energy. But isn't nuclear kind of green energy?
It's the most green. It's the most green energy by a lot. Because all of the materials that go into like solar panels, all the materials that go into like wind turbines those are not good for the environment. And they don't last very long. You have to replace them. We have nuclear power plants that have been set up in the 60s and the 70s that have been running continuously since then and are completely green. And another thing that people don't understand is you could fly a 747 into a nuclear power plant and nothing would happen.
That was literally that was going to be my question.
Yes.
They're
designed.
Isn't it a very easy terrorist threat?
It's really, really hard. They're designed to basically be the most shielded, safe places on the planet. Like if a tornado came or a hurricane or a horrible disaster, a nuclear power plant might be one of the safest places you could go because they're literally designed. They do the 747 test is like a legit test they do with nuclear power plants design where they fly a fucking 747 into them to make sure and they're totally fine. You could fly one directly over. But there was even like during
what about bombs that would be dropped because wouldn't that be a very easy terrorist threat?
If you bombed a nuclear power plant like with a really large bomb, it would be a problem. But if that's the bigger issue would be the bomb that lands on New York City itself and kills everyone, not the nuclear power plant that's like up in Jersey.
So no, but I'm thinking of the nuclear power plant we had in Camp Pendleton. I don't know if you've heard of it, but people call the Camp Pendleton, it's like everyone says it's the two boobs because it looks like two boobs. But they decommissioned the power plant. When did we get into nuclear? When did we get out of it? I know nothing about
So we're still in nuclear. There are hundreds of nuclear power plants across the United States, and they supply like something like 10 to 15% of all of America's energy. Like they're still a big deal. 10% of the energy in a country is a gigantic and massive deal. So by no means are they being phased out. Like in Germany they are, but Germany's fucking stupid.
Germany banned gas stoves, right? And nuclear?
They're so anti-nuclear.
What are they doing?
They ban nuclear power plants. They're like moving away from nuclear energy.
To do what?
God only knows. To do like hippie dipper liberal shit. And by the way, it's not that I'm not liberal. It's just like that liberal policy of being like it's just emotional.
No, I think the part that was crazy about Germany's policy, which I don't know if it's the same anymore, but it was a couple of years ago. It was like they banned gas powered stoves.
Sure.
But you needed to use like sustainable energy, but what sustained the power grid at the time was still coal. So like you're still using coal at the end of the day. So it's not sustainable at all.
And then they have to buy oil from some other horrible country because they're like, we can't buy it from Russia anymore. So we're going to get it from fucking North Korea or Venezuela or the Middle East that just like throw women in cages. And it's like, these places aren't good. Same with America. Like we could get all of our oil that we would need from America. We could buy it.
Yeah, we could self-sustain, right?
Yeah, we're one of the only countries that could.
And but we're moving towards that, right? Because Trump approved the Keystone Pipeline. He's all drill, baby, drill, whatever he's saying.
My argument for oil is that it would be great if we'd have a plan to move off of it. But everything in this room right now is made with oil. Every plastic and synthetic fiber, most of your clothes are manufactured with oil. That's just the world that we live in. Like it's a necessary evil for the time being. And why would we get it from a country that like employs slaves and fucking destroys the environment when we can get it from ourselves and highly regulate the process and also like make money off of it? And we do supply a gigantic portion of our own oil from America, which is good. But like the idea that we're not fully self-sustained, like do you know the fourth largest buyer of oil from the rainforest that's drilled in the rainforest? California. Yeah. Isn't that fun? Yep.
Which rainforest?
Like Brazil, Venezuela, like they're one of the largest importers of foreign oil. The state of California. Because they still need it.
Is it because of our regulations? Are we shooting ourselves in the foot on this? Or is it something different?
Probably. I forget the reason. My brother is an investigative journalist who investigates environmental issues. And he did like a whole story for the Wall Street Journal on this at one point. But like that's it's just like we are all about optics in this country rather than like logic in solving problems. Like it would be amazing to move off of oil. Yeah. How? Literally how? If we stopped using oil today, hundreds of millions of people would starve to death.
Yeah, and I know Biden was having the plan to do all electric cars by the year 2035.
Great. So some African mother with 15 kids on her back can mine it from Chinese overlords in a slave mine in like the Congo, which is where we get all of our cobalt.
And that those processes are very unethical from what you're saying.
It is a nightmare. It is a human. Every phone in America has minerals mined by slaves in Africa. 100%. All the cobalt in the world, 90%, or that's something but it's a gigantic percentage of the world's cobalt, lithium is mined in Africa. And specifically, you can look up videos now. There's I think it's called, I forget what it is. There's an author that came out with a book last year on it, but he went and documented this in the Congo, and the videos are horrifying. They're working. But
doesn't China own a lot of those mining farms? Didn't they? I forgot when I was in Tanzania, they were talking about how the Chinese government is coming and just buying up all this land, all this property, industrializing everything, modernizing it. And
well, what China did that was smart, not necessarily a good thing, but a very smart strategic move is they looked at Africa, which is the least developed continent on the planet, but with the most abundant resources and manpower, right? And so they would go to countries like Kenya and be like, do you want a new road? And they'd be like, yes, we'll give you an interest-free loan of $10 billion. But when we vote on something in the UN, side with us. And they did this all over Africa. And they've been buying up UN votes for years now and playing the long-term game of giving these countries money with interest-free loans or really low interest loans so that they can win over those people. And the people benefit from it. They get investment and their economy booms. But then if China's these white rhino horns, we love them. And remember that loan that we gave you? Or, hey, what if you look over there while we use those 15,000 people to mine cobalt? And then this some guy in Oakley's from China shows up and just starts standing around with a whip by a fucking pit in Congo. And everyone in America is save the environment, the rainforest. And they're doing it on an iPhone, which is literally made by slaves from the beginning to the end of the process. Which is kind of the reason for tariffs, to go back full circle.
Wait, how?
Because the minerals to make it are made by slaves, and the actual people that make it in Foxconn for Apple in China, remember how they had the nets outside the Apple factories? Did you ever hear about this?
No.
There was nets outside Apple factories in China.
Oh, wait, no, I did hear about that. I heard that was complete propaganda.
No, there's nets. And unfortunately, the conditions in a lot of the places where they make iPhones are horrifying. They've gotten a lot better because of those stories.
Yeah, remember, was it the Nike that also had that
all throughout the 90s?
You saw the photos of the kids sewing the soccer balls?
Oh, yeah. All throughout the 80s and 90s, all the textiles companies, Nike, Adidas, or whatever, went through a ton of shit because the production of those materials is terrible.
And it was I think it was Bangladesh.
Oh,
there
God,
was that really tragic
the building collapsing?
that collapsed, and it killed hundreds of people, and they were all manufacturing clothes, and they knew the building wasn't safe, and they still. Well, that was for Zara, H&M.
Yeah.
Forever 21, I think, was also one of them.
Totally, and that's the dark side of all this. And this isn't, by the way, pessimism. Overall, manufacturing is getting safer across the globe, and processes are getting better. And the more we talk about this and tell these stories, we can make it better. We could pay people better wages in the Congo. We're still going to need the cobalt and the lithium. Not saying that, but there's better ways to do it. It's just that we ignore a lot of these conversations and just focus on I don't know, whatever. We just start yelling about fucking abortion or whatever, which is a problem. But it's we pick one issue and then we completely ignore all the other problems because they're convenient to ignore. Because no one wants to talk about the fact that your iPhone is made by slaves. It's not fun. Well,
because everyone has an iPhone, so everyone's a hypocrite.
I love an iPhone. I love my product made by slaves. I don't like the slavery part, but I love the product. It's tough, and that's But when we admit that and we go then we can do something. But if we just go, oops, not good. Focus on the whales, not those people over there.
I think you can focus on the whales too.
We can focus on the whales. We can solve all of these problems. I'm a big believer that if we talk about, we can solve all of the issues.
So, I mean, related to more of the I think the reason why people don't want to talk about that and talk about for example, we're talking about veganism instead of the fact that these kids are mining this cobalt and stuff. I feel it's mainly because people just don't want to be viewed as themselves doing wrong. It's the same people who say oh my God, is that vegan? And then they put a vape in their mouth. And you're I'm sorry, I just don't understand what you're doing. So I think just people don't want to come off as being part of the problem. So they just love to be self-righteous and point fingers.
There's a great book, The Righteous Mind, that talks all about this. But virtue signaling and righteousness is a plague. It's the worst quality in a human being.
And how do you think we got there? Because if you look at it politically, we were super big, growth at all costs, oil, all this stuff, like industrializing ourselves, blah, 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 becoming the leading economy in the world. And then I don't know exactly when the shift happened, but we started caring more about the environment, more about people who are disadvantaged, which I think is all good things.
Yes.
But then we started sacrificing like growth in the businesses and innovation in the US.
Yes. And there's two things at play here. One is the rise of celebrity, where you had like Kim Kardashian or whomever, name another celebrity coming up, Ellen DeGeneres, great, be like, the gay people are really suffering right now. And then she gets off set and be like, what did you do? And throwing her employees down flights of stairs. So you have like this one side that's like, I'm a saint and I'm helping the world. And then the second the camera goes off, she's a horrible human being. And it's just literally being good for optics. But on the flip side, it also happened on the corporate side. And this is a fact. Companies engage in like corporate propaganda to be like, we care about DEI, so they can get away with being horrible in other ways, like underpaying employees abroad, using sweatshops or whatever, because we have a black woman who's the CEO, and that's really important. And it's like, what about the sweatshop that collapsed in Bangladesh? And it's like, oh, you saying a black woman did that? It's like, that's, and by the way, we should have black women representation. Awesome. But a lot of companies literally use it. You think like that person's like a good person, the CEO of a multinational corporation that has, 90,000 employees and makes $50 billion a year and does it all in oil. You think the executive board are good people and they care about diversity? No, they want you to be distracted and think they care about diversity so they can kill more pygmies in the rainforest and get away with it. So it's like the rise of that, realizing that you could just be altruistic to divert away from the actual bad that you're doing. Not that we shouldn't be altruistic. Good. Avoiding problems, bad. Using it for the wrong reasons, bad. But then celebrities did the same thing. And so that's been the common thing, is like so inauthentic, just horrible people that are famous but seem awesome. And then you meet them and they're like a diva. Beyonce, like buying out at like, no one can be on the hospital floor when I'm giving birth. Remember that story? She cleared out a whole hospital floor while she was giving birth. It's like, yeah, she seems
diva.
She seems awesome, which by the way, she made enough money to be able to afford it. Pro her. But like, then being like, she's just the best person ever. And it's like, really? I don't know. So,
but I guess, how do you think that has played in terms of my original question, which was we were talking
about like, how did we get here? Where there's like these, how do we get to the point where there's, the avoiding of actual problems?
Yeah. So, sorry, I got completely sidetracked. What would the solution to that be? Because there's still, we are now seeing, and it's infuriating if you're someone especially who appreciated these DEI policies,
sure,
because it gave you opportunities that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and opportunities that you deserve that you were robbed of.
Sure.
They're now completely switching their tone. Like, it's like, and it feels so inauthentic, because it's like, I thought 1 second, oh, we're not getting rid of these DEI policies. Target got rid of them. JP Morgan's getting rid of them. Morgan Stanley got rid of them. Like, every single big company, I just feel like, is bowing down. And maybe I'm coming from a privileged place to say this, but I wish they just had never done it at all, if that was going to be the case. Because it just comes off as like, you flip-flop. You're flip-flopping.
It's inauthentic.
Wherever the wind blows you, you go.
That sucks. It's a terrible behavior, and it's like the most people who don't actually have real beliefs. If you authentically change a belief, awesome. Love that. Changing your mind, pro that. But if you just believe whatever you believe because it's cool now, like you're defund the police, and then all of a sudden you're like, we need police. It's like, have a through line, but you're just parroting whatever people are saying. Corporations do the same thing. I think the answer for that is like a lot of the DEI stuff was done recklessly without like an actual implementation that was like made sense. Take what's going on with college admissions right now, right? Like the ugly truth for the last 10, 20, 30 years has been that, Asian and white applicants have far higher test scores than a lot of people that are being admitted to schools. And like NYU just released theirs, where like Asian applicants that had 200, 300 points higher test scores than black applicants were getting completely rejected from these schools. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it's like, the way to go about this was to be like, hey, we need to like raise the standards for everyone and make it like these people were disenfranchised and didn't have good opportunities. Like a lot of minorities in America didn't have as good education systems as people in white and Asian communities. That's a fact. So there's a way to go implementing this program. But honestly, when you hide the information and then it comes out later, then people go, oh, this is totally bullshit. And it's like, well, no, it wasn't bull. We need to give more opportunities to people. Yeah. But when you're just dishonest about it and you try and like just put one narrative that's not the full story, then if the truth ever comes out, then you just leave yourself exposed. So you have to like present the facts and be like, this is what we're doing. Here's the facts across the board. We need to create a system that gives people more advantages and raises the education levels of everyone in this country fairly because of the missed opportunities in the past. But like when you just ignore reality and try and be like, this is what's happening, and then that comes out, now you've destroyed all the work that you tried to do over the past 20 years, which is terrible.
Yeah. And I think like we've seen with, I don't know exactly where all of this comes from, but the rise of the use in social media has brought in just this groupthink mentality of like you group yourself in with one set of people and you feel like you belong, especially politically. Like we're more divided than ever as a country. And I think another part of the problem is the lack of authenticity comes from just an insane amount of pressure from certain groups of people to act a certain way, be a certain way. And it's like, if you don't do this, you're canceled. If you don't, remember the black squares situation, for example, if you don't post a black square, you're canceled. I posted a black square because I wanted to show solidarity. And then another person was like, why would you do that? Like why would you do that?
Do you hate police officers? And you're like, wait, what? No, I would.
I was like, no, I don't hate anyone. I'm just trying to do the right thing. So I think like the internet has just, in my opinion, grown to be such a hateful place.
Yes.
For whatever reason. And I don't know what to do. We're in a loneliness epidemic of men, like Scott Galloway was talking about it. I just don't, I don't know the solution. Like I feel like I'm trying to be like kumbaya, everyone live in peace, but.
Get off the internet. Make the internet illegal for anyone who's under 21. If like literally, I'm like social media should be. I
actually am so pro that.
Me too.
Not 21. That's
whatever. 18 fine, Claire.
But like, I genuinely feel like kids under the age of 18 should not be able to have social media, any form of social media at all.
I didn't have Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Now I have brand accounts for those, but I never had a personal Facebook, never had a personal Instagram. I had Snapchat with 5 followers and 5 friends, and I completely made it off social media until I was a full-grown adult.
And how do you think that impacted you?
Incredibly well. Stable, healthy mindset.
Stable, you say?
For the most part, Claire. Let's not get too crazy here. No, but like people be like, I don't know what anyone's doing. They're like, did you see so-and-so? I'm like, no. I've never known.
That's such a way to live. I really want to be one of those celebrities that they like that can just pay to have someone run their social media. So it's like, you see me, you need to see me, whatever, make an appearance, and then I just disappear.
Totally. I think just being on it is bad. It's bad for you objectively. You can use it to make money, and that's good, which I'm doing now. But the second I'm rich enough, I'll throw my phone into the ocean, and I'll never look back. Yeah, 100%.
Seriously?
I get a flip phone because it's bad. If I'm addicted to things that I have, my solution for getting unaddicted to things is just not having them. Like if I don't, how do I not eat ice cream? I don't have it. I don't have snack food. There's no snacks in my house. I pickled cabbage that I made the other day. That's what I can eat. That's my option. But the no one wants, just don't have it. It's not an option. That's my biggest strategy for not being addicted to things is don't have it. If you can afford not to, don't.
But your business. So what's going to happen to that?
Well, again, I get rich enough. And also I pay people now. Like I check Instagram like once a day and I don't look at clips and like, I don't even know my friends like, do you see my story? I'm like, no,
I don't care.
People DM me.
Next.
People DM me and like the guy I paid to run my account, Nick, shout out. Just he'll go check and be like, oh, this person messaged you. And I'm like, oh shit, fucking. And like, I think it's like pull yourself off of wherever you can pull yourself off of. Mm-hmm. If there's a place you have to make money, use it to make money. And if you're not using it to make money, get off of it. You have to just be like disciplined. Like you shouldn't scroll TikTok.
Yeah, I saw what someone was saying. It was like, we are getting access to an infinite amount of information within seconds of each other. You can see someone getting decapitated and then you see like a girl's OnlyFans, and then you see like pandas. It's so diverse, and I don't think psychologically like we're built to withstand that level of information.
And going back to your point earlier, like the whole idea that you can you get access to all of this information all the time. Like, you shouldn't know what other people are doing. That's not good for you. Like, the idea that like people are like, well, did you see like they didn't invite you to a party? I'm like, all right, well, okay.
No, and it always leaves you more feelings of feeling hollow.
I don't feel FOMO. So if someone's like, dear Mark didn't invite you to the party, I'm like, I'm sure he had a good reason. I think that's the best thing I got out of social media.
And you wouldn't have known otherwise if you didn't have Instagram, because you're not keeping tabs.
Yeah,
with
no,
people.
that I think not having Instagram for the longest time, I assumed I was being left out of things, but I'm like, I have good relationships with my friends, and I know that they care about me. So if they didn't invite me to things, I'm not like, I'm sure they had a good reason. But I think, having access to all this information, also knowing what everyone's political ideology, I don't care what you believe. As long as you don't want to hurt people, you could fucking want to believe anything as long as you don't hurt people. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Why is it that social media has, instead of creating a place where people could safely disagree with one another and
people don't have their own ideas, Claire. They've always been followers.
It's done the opposite.
95% of people don't have opinions about things.
And why?
Just because that's the way their brains work. Very few people have like actual thoughts and like structured opinions on things. Some people, that's maybe not the most charitable view. Some people have like really opinionated things about like formulated opinions about music. But like people can't have opinions about everything. Some people can't have opinions about anything, and they just want to be told what to do. They're like, I'm never going to be a leader. I'm good at fixing boats. Put me in the boat fixing department. I'm going to fix boats amazingly. And he's going to be the guy. He's the number one expert at fixing boats. But if you put him in a leadership position, he's going to fail. He's not going to want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. He wants to have a family and fix boats. That's cool. He shouldn't also be a boat influencer who shares his opinions on the boat, the history of boats and where the industry is going. That's bad, because what he's going to do is he's just going to copy what other boat influencers say, because he doesn't have actual opinions.
I was so guilty of that.
Which is fine. You don't have to, but you're expected now.
You're expected to. It's like, you're not speaking about this issue. I remember when I used to be an educational TikToker, and I was talking about this. It was Stop Asian Hate. It was the Stop Asian Hate movement.
Sure.
And half of my family is Asian, so I made a video about it. And then there's one person who commented, they said, I can't believe you would post something like this. Like, this is so racist. You're taking away from the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just deleted it because I was like, oh, I didn't mean, I feel horrible. I was like, I didn't mean to do something like that. And it's just, my kids, if and when I have kids, they will not be able to access the internet.
But people do this
for years.
No, literally until they're an adult. My parents, I got like bad grades. I got my own phone. I shared a phone with my twin brother for many years. And then I got a phone in like sophomore year of high school. And then I got bad grades and they took it away. I went back to having an iPod until senior year of high school.
Slay.
So I was an iPod touch guy. People were like, why are you texting me on Snapchat text? I was like, that's because I literally have no other method of texting you. There was an iMessage at the time for iPods.
Yo, what's your Snap?
But people try and do that shit in person. I had a guy once.
No way people do that in person. Really?
Yeah, like try and be like, how dare you? I had people do this with me in person, trying to guilt me. And I had a guy at a party once. And it was like I've met this guy 5-6 times. He always comes up to me and says, yo, it's your name. And I'm like, I've met you like eight times or whatever. But I remember I was like hanging out with my friends, and he was just, walks back over to us at the party. Says, what's going on? I'm like, how's it going, brother? And I was just like, I say that to everyone, call everyone brother. He happened to be half black. And he goes, oh, I'm brother? And I'm like, yes. And I was like, I know what you're doing. You're trying to make me feel bad about this right now. I will not be swindled. I'm like, I didn't mean it like that. I'm standing with my other friend, Sam, who's black, which he goes to Sam, he goes, can you believe this guy? And he goes, he's adopted. We're actually brothers. And he goes to fuck with him because he's just trying to make me feel bad. He's trying to be like, take this innocuous moment into a bigger thing and make it like a racial thing. And it was like so weird and uncomfortable. But I just, at the moment, I was like, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry I'm sorry that you feel offended, but I'm not going to apologize because I didn't mean it like that. And I'm not going to, like, let's not make this a big thing. And he's like, well, trying to fight with me. I'm like, I'm not going to fight with you on this. It's not worth fighting. But I've had people it doesn't happen often, but I've had people try and pull that shit in person. It happened more years ago. I think now we're kind of culturally moving away from that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
There was an interview in the Wall Street Journal, or no, not Wall Street Journal, some news outlet. And it was this guy who they interviewed who works at a bank or something. And they're like, yeah, we can finally use all these terms again.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, God bless.
God bless. And yeah.
Take me to God's country.
Yeah. Listen, racism's bad. We don't like that. Prejudice, bad. But I just think the trying to make people feel bad about things and like make issues out of nothing is like a horrible advent of the internet. Just like, how could you do this, Claire?
And it's like the excitement to prey on someone's downfall. And when they like fall down, you're so secretly happy about it.
Yeah. Like that thing, you having to delete that video because you're talking about something that is like relevant to you and your family is fucking crazy. It's like,
I know.
There can be multiple issues at once.
Yeah.
There's also people being drone striked in Libya right now. That's also, what do you be like? No, it's only the Black Lives Matter moment today. No talking about the people being murdered in Syria or whatever. It's like, that seems a little like much of a stretch.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I don't think the pendulum is swinging too far the other direction, which is just being some of the things
I know
some people are saying now. I'm like, yo,
I know.
I get Trump's in office, but like
course correct. That's the thing is everything just there's no, people. Human beings are really bad at nuance and they're really bad at just like middle ground of things. I think some cultures are better than others at it. Like I think some Asian cultures are maybe slightly more measured, at least in some ways, and other ways not at all. But I think like there's a culture in America where it's just like the second we're like, yeah, that maybe wasn't the greatest thing. It's like so full Ku Klux Klan now. And it's like nope, not. That was, I think cancel culture is no good, but I think the answer is not like. It has to
be a middle ground.
Got to be a middle ground.
Okay. Good conversation about cancel culture. My last question to you is, if you had to picture yourself in 45 years and you look back on your life, you're retired, you're rich, you have everything you want, materialistically, what is something you have to have had accomplished to feel fulfilled?
I need to own a pack of wolves. I want to have like exotic animals in a gigantic 50,000 acre swath of land.
Okay.
Yeah. I need that to happen. Okay. That's really mission critical for me to feel self-actualized at some point in my life.
The dire wolf.
I would love a dire wolf.
Did you see George R.R. Martin was holding it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
It's the best.
I can't believe it. So they genetically.
They got the genome from dire wolf, like skull and teeth, and then they used like I guess like embryos or like modified embryos of gray wolves, and they created like what is the like 98% dire wolf animal, which is amazing. And then a bunch of fucking dorks on the internet are like, that's not a real dire wolf. And I'm like,
it looks real. It's
like,
beautiful.
If it's 98% of the way there, it's a fucking dire wolf.
Okay, is that your answer?
That's my answer.
You want a pack of wolves?
I want a pack of wolves.
And what about
maybe an elephant?
A feeling to have. Like, do you want to feel peaceful? Like, is there anything else that you wanted to accomplish?
No, like they actually, yeah. I think just feel like I just had a lot of fun. Like I'm almost ready to be done laughing. If I'm just like on the death, I'm like, this is all I got in me. I'm gonna die laughing. That's when I want to go out. Yeah. One last joke, and then my heart explodes, and then the curtain comes down on Jack. That would be cool.
I think that's a good answer. Thank you so much for coming. It's been an eventful episode.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.